Welcome to CivilNet. My guest is Ambassador Dayanà Yansé, the ambassador of Sweden to Armenia and Georgia. And her residence is in Tbilisi, so when she's in Armenia, we take every opportunity we can to chat about what's happening here, what's happening there. Ambassador, thank you for finding time for us.
Thank you for having me.
And let me start with the question that we always ask ourselves. Armenians can never figure out why so far away, developed country, doing fine, living its life, why is Sweden interested in Armenia, or Georgia even for that matter? But what's the interest? Why be here? Why do support programs here? Why?
Because it's an important region, and we want to support democracy in the region. I think it's basically because we see that's the way to live if you want to really serve your citizens. So yeah, and I also think one reason is that a lot is at stake in this region. There are unsolved conflicts, and well, we don't think it's in anybody's interest that conflicts erupt again. So I'd say, and I wouldn't agree that Armenia is that far away from Sweden. I don't think so.
That's good to hear, because I think as the world gets smaller, that it's as much seeing Sweden and reading about Sweden and talking to Swedes that's going to push us, in the right direction politically and economically, as much as all of Sweden's good intentions. It's also interesting to us to follow Sweden, because in many ways Sweden is very supportive of Turkey's EU accession efforts. And as odd as it seems often, Armenia too is interested in Turkey's EU accession efforts, because at the end of the day, having Europe at our borders is not such a bad thing.
No, I think it would be a good thing also for Armenia. And I think Turkey and Europe would definitely be a good thing for Europe as well. It would mean, complying to everything that is required to become an EU member state is a long way to travel, and I think that the travel itself is as important as the membership in the end, because it really helps transforming a country in a democratic way.
I understand and I agree, and I think that often it's a little bit difficult for us to believe that in fact that is how these political processes take place. As much as most of us think that Turkey and Europe is a good thing, most of us are also skeptical and think that, Europe will if Europe decides this is what we want, Europe might cut corners, might just kind of look the other way and not necessarily wait for Turkey to be the Turkey that is deserving of Europe.
Yeah, I don't really agree. I think the tendency we see within the Union is rather on the contrary, that the threshold to become a member is unfortunately, I would say, is being raised. I think it should be really clear-cut criteria, and once you fulfill them, then you're in, and if you don't, you aren't in. And well, there is a lot of debate in Europe about enlargement fatigue, etc., etc., and I think that has contributed to quite the opposite than cutting corners, to be honest.
It's good to hear. Tell me something else that is, again, one of those places where Sweden and Armenia are in such different places. In Sweden, with the high tax rate and the really taken for granted sort of government and citizens' lives relationship, from education to old age to all of that. And in Armenia, we're at exactly the other end. There's absolutely no trust between citizen and government. I don't want to give the government my money for my old age, and I'm not sure the government understands it's responsible for me in my old age. How do we get from here to there? Is it government first proving that it needs to be trusted? Is it people first saying, okay, here's my tax dollars, what are you going to do for me? Yeah,
well, I think it needs to be an interaction between government and citizens. Citizens being clear on what they want and demand from their authorities, and the authorities responding to that, because in the end, that's what they're there to serve. So, I mean, I know we're lucky, and there are maybe not that many countries that we have the same level of trust, but I think there is a way to go forward, but I mean, you have to be quite explicit with what you want and how.
As citizens.
Yes, I do think so, and I mean, as a politician, your it's your task to be the visionary and to try to lay that out and not only see the end goal but also like a realistic way how to get there. But I do think it's an interaction and it's also the citizens' responsibility, I would argue. It's not only for the government to deliver, it's also a citizen's responsibility.
Well, in the run-up to elections, there's a message, as they say, from your mouth to God's ears. May our politicians hear you and understand that we want them to be visionaries so that we can trust them. Thank you, Ambassador Dayanà Յանսե of Sweden, and we look forward to talking to you again.